Hey ChatGPT, what do you think about Islam's rise in Christian Europe? It seems there is significant growth of the Muslim population in traditionally Christian European nations. What's the reason of growth? Please explain in 40 seconds. Thanks.
Quran Surah Al-Hujurat chapter 49 verse 13. O mankind, indeed we have created you from male and female and made you peoples and tribes that you may know one another. Indeed, the most noble of you in the sight of Allah is the most righteous of you. Indeed, Allah is knowing and acquainted. This verse emphasizes the value of diversity and the importance of understanding and respecting one another, which can resonate in discussions about growing multicultural societies. Cleophy, the rise of Islam in traditionally Christian European nations can be attributed to several factors. Migration. Increased immigration from Muslim-majority countries due to conflict, economic opportunities, and seeking asylum has contributed to population growth. Birth rates. Generally, Muslim families have higher birth rates compared to their Christian counterparts, leading to a natural increase in the Muslim population. Cultural exchange. As societies become more multicultural, there's greater acceptance and integration of diverse communities, fostering a more significant Muslim presence. Secularization trends. Many European countries are experiencing secularization, with fewer people identifying strongly with Christianity, creating space for other religions to flourish. These dynamics reflect broader social changes and challenges in contemporary Europe.
Thank you so much, ChatGPT. Let's dive deeper into this chapter together with Jack and Wilson. Hey everyone, before we dive into that, I was delving into my YouTube channel analytics and noticed most of you who watch my videos are not subscribed to the channel. Would you do me a huge favor, please, and hit the subscribe button? It really motivates me and helps the channel to grow so I can do more videos just like the one you're about to watch. So without further ado, let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone, for another deep dive. Today we have a really fascinating topic. It's about the religious landscape and how it's changing in Europe. And we're going to be looking at a YouTube video today called 10 Christian Nations Where Islam is Rapidly Growing from the channel Adventure Travel Events.
Right.
Now, what's interesting about this is that it's not just statistics. It's about how immigration, conversion, cultural exchange, they're actually impacting these countries.
It's really fascinating to see how these demographic changes are having these like tangible cultural shifts in Europe. You know, like you mentioned immigration and conversion. But then the video also talks about things like how names like Muhammad and Omar are becoming more and more popular, or halal food is becoming much more mainstream. You know, and you even see things like Islamic finance starting to gain a foothold. So it's really like changing the fabric of these societies.
Yeah, it's almost like this ripple effect. It's really interesting. So just to give everyone a quick overview, the video focuses on 10 European nations that have historically been considered Christian, but are now seeing a pretty significant rise in their Muslim populations. And they've kind of ranked these countries based on the percentage of Muslims in the population.
Yeah, we're going to be going on like a countdown through these countries, starting with Denmark, which has the lowest percentage on the list at 5%, and then working our way up to France, which has the highest at 19%.
Okay, so let's kick things off in Denmark.
Okay.
Now, the video mentions that the name Muhammad has become one of the top 20 most popular baby names.
Yeah.
What do you think that signifies?
Well, it could indicate a few things. I mean, maybe it suggests that Muslim families in Denmark are feeling more comfortable expressing their religious identity. Or it could be a sign of, you know, increasing cultural integration.
Oh, interesting.
With maybe non-Muslim families embracing that name too. It's an interesting trend that's worth kind of looking into.
It does make you wonder, you know, what factors are driving these trends and how they vary across different countries. Speaking of which, next on the list is Austria, with a Muslim population of 8%.
Okay.
And the video highlights Vienna, the capital, as having over 200,000 Muslim residents.
Wow.
And over 150 mosques and prayer rooms.
That's a pretty vibrant community.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
And what's really interesting about Austria is that they have this long history of recognizing Islam as a religion.
Oh, wow.
They were one of the first European countries to actually officially recognize Islam all the way back in 1912.
Wow, that's a long time ago.
Yeah, and it was largely due to their annexation of Bosnia and Herzegovina, which already had a significant Muslim population.
So they've had more time to adapt to these demographic shifts than some of these other countries on the list. And the video actually highlights Vienna's Islamic Center, which was built in 1979, as playing a crucial role in kind of building bridges between different communities.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, they host something like over 50,000 visitors annually for interfaith dialogues and cultural events.
That's a great example of how these religious institutions can become catalysts for social integration.
Right.
By creating these spaces for open dialogue and cultural exchange, they help foster understanding and break down stereotypes.
It definitely paints a more nuanced picture than we often get from the headlines. Now, moving on to Sweden, which has a 9% Muslim population. The video talks about Malmö as being a city that has a strong Islamic presence.
Right.
They also point out that the name Omar has entered the top 15 baby names in Sweden's major cities.
Oh, interesting.
So we're seeing those naming trends pop up again.
It really does seem to be a pattern, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And it kind of speaks to this idea that even something as personal as a name can become a reflection of these like larger societal shifts.
Yeah.
It's interesting to see how cultures evolve and adapt over time.
Yeah, it really is. Okay, so next up is the Netherlands,
Well,
also with a Muslim population of just over 9%. And this is where things get interesting from an economic perspective. The video mentions that the Netherlands has become a pioneer in Islamic finance, with Dutch banks offering specialized services to over 500,000 Muslim customers.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know, it's a really smart move considering the growing economic power of the Muslim community.
Yeah.
You know, Islamic finance is based on principles that prohibit things like interest and speculation,
Right.
which obviously align with Islamic religious beliefs.
So they're adapting to the needs of this growing market segment. And of course, we can't forget about food.
Of course.
The video highlights Rotterdam as Europe's halal food capital, with over 1,000 halal-certified restaurants and food producers.
Oh, wow, I love it.
I know, I do too.
Yeah.
So for anyone who's not familiar, halal just means permissible under Islamic law, and it applies to a variety of things, but in this case, we're talking about food preparation.
Right.
So for example, halal meat has to come from animals that have been slaughtered according to Islamic rituals.
It's another great example of how these demographic changes are creating new markets and influencing the culinary landscape.
Totally.
Yeah.
So we've seen a couple Scandinavian countries. We moved through Central Europe, landed in the Netherlands. What's next on our list?
Well, our next stop takes us to Italy.
Italy.
Italy, yeah.
Okay.
Which might surprise some people because, you know, Italy, with its strong Catholic heritage,
Right.
you might not expect to see a large Muslim population there.
Yeah, it kind of breaks that stereotype of what we typically think of as a Christian nation.
Exactly. And yet Italy has a Muslim population of 10%.
Wow.
And the video mentions that the name Yusuf has entered the top 20 baby names in Milan,
Interesting.
reflecting the, growing presence of Muslim families there.
It's a good reminder that these religious demographics aren't static. They're constantly evolving,
Right.
influenced by migration patterns, conversion rates, and, all these different factors.
Absolutely.
It makes you realize that even countries with these deep-rooted religious traditions, they're not immune to change.
You're absolutely right. So speaking of countries with complex religious histories, let's move on to Spain, which has a Muslim population of 11%.
All right, so Spain, this is where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
The video talks about this kind of cultural revival happening in Spain,
Right.
with the country becoming Europe's largest producer of halal meat and exporting to over 40 countries.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
It's a testament to how these cultural practices can create new economic opportunities
Right.
and actually connect people across borders.
Yeah.
And it's not just about food.
Oh.
Spain's also seeing this revival of Islamic architecture,
Oh, wow.
with the Great Mosque of Granada being the first mosque constructed in the country in over 500 years.
That's incredible. What a powerful symbol.
Yeah.
It really reminds us that Spain has this rich history with Islam going back to the Al-Andalus period.
Right.
It seems like they're rediscovering and embracing this part of their heritage.
It's a fascinating example of how the past can really inform the present,
Right.
and how these cultural identities are constantly being reshaped.
Totally. Okay, so moving along to our next country, we have Belgium with a Muslim population of 12%. Okay. And what caught my eye about Belgium is that the video highlights the name Adam, a name shared by both Islamic and Christian traditions, as the third most popular boy's name in Brussels.
Oh, wow.
What do you think about that?
That's really neat. It's like a nice symbol of this potential for shared values and common ground.
Yeah, I think so too.
It's this reminder that despite our differences, we often have more in common than we realize.
Totally.
And sometimes it's those shared experiences and traditions that can help bridge divides and create a sense of unity.
Okay, so we're now entering the top 3 countries on our list.
All right.
And the percentages start to get even higher.
Okay.
Coming in at number 3 is Germany, with a Muslim population of 14%.
Wow.
The video points out that Germany has become a leader in Islamic education in Europe.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
With over 150 Islamic theology programs being offered at universities across the country.
That's a really interesting approach. It's just a real commitment to understanding and integrating Islam into the broader educational landscape. By providing these opportunities for higher education and Islamic studies.
Yeah.
They're not only catering to the needs of their Muslim population, but they're also fostering a deeper understanding of Islam within the wider society.
Yeah, it's a very proactive approach to promoting religious literacy and intercultural dialogue.
Absolutely.
And the video also mentions that Germany hosts Europe's largest annual Muslim cultural festival.
Oh, wow.
Attracting over 300,000 visitors each year.
That's fantastic.
To celebrate Islamic art, music, and literature.
It's a wonderful way to showcase the richness and diversity of Islamic culture.
Right.
And to create opportunities for people of different backgrounds to connect and learn from each other.
Yeah, it really is. So Germany seems to be embracing this very multifaceted approach to integrating its growing Muslim population.
It's really cool to see.
Now let's move on to the second country on our list.
Okay.
The United Kingdom, with a Muslim population of 16%. And the video points out a really interesting trend in baby names. Apparently, the name Zion has become one of the top 10 boys' names across major British cities.
That's right. And at the same time, you see traditional English names like George
really
becoming increasingly popular among Muslim families.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So it seems like there's this kind of two-way cultural exchange happening where families are drawing from both their heritage and their current cultural context when choosing names.
Exactly. It's a sign of this cultural blending and adaptation, which is a natural part of any integration process. And it's just that Muslim families are finding ways to maintain their own traditions while also embracing aspects of British culture.
It's a really encouraging sign.
Yeah, it is.
And finally, we arrive at our number 1 spot, France, with a Muslim population of 19%, the largest in Europe.
Wow, 19%. It's significant.
It is. And what's interesting about France is that the video highlights its emergence as a leader in the halal cosmetics industry. Yeah. Which is reportedly worth over 3 billion euros annually.
Wow, that's a huge market. It seems like businesses are really recognizing the economic potential of catering to Muslim consumers.
Right. And the video also mentions the Grand Mosque of Paris, which was built in 1926, as being one of the city's most visited cultural sites.
Oh, wow.
Attracting over 2 million visitors annually.
That's amazing.
Both Muslim and non-Muslim.
It's a beautiful example of a landmark that transcends its religious origins to become a symbol of the city's multicultural identity.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It seems like France, despite some of the political and social challenges it's faced, is also finding ways to embrace and celebrate its diversity.
Absolutely. It's a complex and evolving situation, but there are definitely signs of progress and integration.
So we've just gone through this whirlwind tour of these 10 European countries and the ways in which they're adapting to their growing Muslim populations. It's clear that this is a complex and multifaceted issue with no easy answers. But what I find fascinating is that we're seeing a lot of innovation and creativity in how these countries are approaching integration.
Yeah, it's not just a European phenomenon either.
Oh, really?
Similar demographic shifts are happening all over the world.
Oh, wow.
Leading to new and dynamic forms of cultural exchange and religious coexistence.
It's a good reminder that the world is constantly changing and that societies are always evolving. And that brings us back to the video's kind of central theme.
Yeah.
How are these 10 European nations adapting to these changes?
Right.
And what are the potential challenges and opportunities they face?
That's really the heart of the matter, isn't it?
I think so.
The video touches on some of the ways these countries are navigating these shifts.
Yeah.
Highlighting examples of both successful integration and ongoing tensions. But as we've discussed, it's a complex and nuanced issue with no easy answers.
Right. There's no one-size-fits-all solution. What works in one country might not work in another. But one thing that seems to be universally important is this need for open and honest dialogue.
I completely agree.
we need to be able to talk about these issues frankly and respectfully.
Yeah.
Acknowledging both the challenges and the opportunities that diversity presents.
I think that's so important. And it's not just about talking amongst ourselves.
Right.
It's about creating spaces where people from different backgrounds can come together, share their perspectives, and learn from each other.
Yeah.
We need to move beyond stereotypes and assumptions and engage with each other as individuals.
And that requires a willingness to listen, to empathize, and to challenge our own biases.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing that diversity is not a threat, but a source of strength and richness.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's not just about individuals.
Yeah.
Governments and institutions also have a huge role to play in fostering inclusive societies where everyone feels valued and respected regardless of their beliefs or background.
Right. They need to ensure that everyone has equal opportunities, that religious freedom is protected, and that discrimination is actively combated.
Exactly. And let's not forget the role of the media.
Yeah, what about the media?
The media has a tremendous responsibility to report on these issues accurately and fairly, avoiding sensationalism and fear-mongering. Instead, they should focus on stories that highlight the positive aspects of diversity, the shared values that unite us, and the inspiring examples of intercultural harmony that are emerging all around the world.
Okay, so we've talked about the challenges.
Yeah.
But let's shift our focus to the opportunities.
Okay.
What are some of the potential benefits of these demographic shifts?
Well, for one thing, increased diversity can lead to greater innovation and creativity.
Okay.
When people from different backgrounds come together, they bring new ideas and perspectives to the table, which can lead to new solutions and approaches.
That makes sense. And it's not just about economics or technology.
Right. Diversity can also enrich our cultural landscape.
Absolutely.
Exposing us to new forms of art, music, literature, cuisine.
It broadens our horizons and helps us to see the world in new and exciting ways.
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, it challenges us to confront our own biases and assumptions, leading to greater understanding and empathy.
It's like a journey of self-discovery, both individually and collectively.
Exactly.
We're forced to ask ourselves who we are, what we believe, and what kind of society we want to create.
Those are not easy questions to answer.
No, they're not.
But I believe that engaging with these questions honestly and openly is essential if we want to build a more just, equitable, and harmonious world.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've talked about statistics, cultural shifts, challenges, opportunities.
Yeah, it's been a great conversation.
It really has. But before we wrap up, I have one final question for you.
Okay, shoot.
The video we discussed focused on Europe.
But what other countries might be experiencing similar shifts?
That's a fascinating question to consider. And you're right, the video did focus on Europe.
Yeah.
But similar demographic changes are happening all over the world.
Wow.
I mean, you see it in countries in North America, South America, Asia, Africa.
Wow.
They're also seeing significant growth in their Muslim populations.
So this is truly a global phenomenon.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it highlights the interconnectedness of our world and the need for cross-cultural understanding and dialogue on a global scale.
Well, this deep dive has given us a lot to think about.
It really has.
Europe's religious landscape is changing.
Yeah.
And it's fascinating to see how these countries are adapting.
Right.
But as you said, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Exactly. There's so much more to explore.
And that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah.
So for our listeners who want to dive deeper into this topic, where would you suggest they go to learn more about the specifics of Islamic integration in these societies?
That's a great question. I would recommend checking out academic journals, reputable think tanks, and news sources that specialize in religious studies, immigration, and European affairs.
Great suggestions.
Yeah.
And don't forget first-hand accounts.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Look for books, articles, documentaries created by Muslims living in these countries.
Yeah.
Hearing their stories and perspectives is invaluable for gaining a deeper understanding.
It's all about getting multiple viewpoints and challenging our own assumptions.
Exactly. Remember, knowledge is most valuable when it's understood and applied. And in a world that's becoming increasingly diverse, that understanding is more important than ever.
Well said. This has been a truly enlightening conversation.
It has been.
Thank you for sharing your insights with us today.
It's been my pleasure.
And to our listeners, we hope this deep dive has sparked your curiosity and inspired you to learn more about the ever-evolving world around us.
Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep those deep dives going. Yeah, it's definitely a global story and one that's unfolding in some really fascinating ways. But let's zoom back in on these 10 European countries for a moment.
Yeah.
As we've been discussing, they're each navigating this demographic shift in their own unique way. But curious to hear your thoughts. Did you know?
Thank you for joining us for today's podcast. I hope you've gained some valuable insights. If you're a truth seeker, yearning for divine light and ready to step out of darkness, now is your moment. The truth is that Allah is the one and only creator of the universe. He has sent over 124,000 messengers and prophets to guide humanity, starting with Adam and culminating with the final messenger, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon them all. If you resonate with this message, you might be ready to embrace Islam. Simply recite the Shahada, the Islamic declaration of faith. For further support, feel free to join our WhatsApp group. You can send us a private message there. The link is in the video description. Don't wait until it's too late. We look forward to connecting with you soon.